Today we're looking at a KitchenAid dishwasher, and the complaint is it's not washing the dishes. So first thing we want to do here is enter into the diagnostic mode where we can check for error codes and run it through a test cycle. To do that, you're going to select any 3 buttons except for start and cancel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then all the lights will light up to let you know you're in the diagnostic cycle. And then after that, at this point, on this model without a digital display, your clean light will flash at you to give you the error code. It's going to flash first for the F code, and then it'll take a pause, and then it'll flash for your E code, which will get you your error code. You know, say it's an F5, E1, you'll get 5 flashes, then a pause, and then just a 1 flash. So we don't have any error codes right now in the system. If you did at this point, with that high temperature, when that high temperature light was just flashing, you would hit that, which will erase all of your error codes out of the system. And then now it's progressed into the test cycle. You can hear it starting to fill with water here. So after the fill, it's going to wash, or if we hit start, we can advance it to the next portion of the cycle, which would be wash, which would turn on our wash motor. And you can keep advancing through the cycle. Now, we're not getting the wash motor to run here when it should be running. And it's just going to step through a bunch of different washes. It's going to turn the diverter valve on. You can hear that clicking back and forth. And then eventually it'll get to the drain. Alright, so there's our drain pump running. Our drain pump's good, and then right after the drain, you'll get your heater that'll come on for, I think it's like 10 seconds or so you can verify heater operation, and then your test cycle will be over with at that point. So fill works, drain works. We're looking at a wash motor that's not working. So we're gonna open it up, we'll get to the control board and pin it out to see if we're actually getting voltage out of the board supplied to the motor. Alright, so open the door here. We have to separate the door. To get to that control board, there's going to be a bunch of Torx or star-bit screws around the outer edge. And they're going to have the longer ones that are going to go across the top. The short ones are going to be for your side. So at this point, we can lift straight up on the front panel here to remove it. And we have our wire connector here for the UI or for the control panel. I'm gonna unplug this right now for a second so I can have better access to our control board here. All right, so our motor wires are going to be these light 2 wires here, and that's going to send our power from the control board down to the motor, which is going to be 120 volts. So to be able to get in there and test it, we got to take the control board off here. There's a tab to push up on to release the board. Just use a little screwdriver here. Then that'll slide over to the left. And then you can remove it. There's just some tabs here that slide into the keyed holes. All right, so at this point, we need to remove 2 covers, this one here and this one. There's going to be some tabs here to push over and release all that. So that'll release that one. And this one is just clipped in there, so we can take that one off. Alright, so there is our connector for the motor. What we're going to want to do now is put it back into a cycle. You can do a test cycle or a regular cycle, and let it advance to a point to where you know the unit should be running that wash motor, and then we can check for our voltage coming out here. So we'll need to bring back over our control panel. So we can plug that back in. We have our door closed, which it is. And then just going to go back into the diagnostic cycle. And I'm just advancing through the error code state. Alright, so now it's filling with water. So the next point of this test will be the wash motor. So we're going to go ahead and get our test leads into our connector here. You see at the back of the connector here, there's little spots that'll get you to the terminal. Because it's hard to get right where the wires would be, there's no way really to get your test leads in there. So we're going to go right here. And we do have 120 volts, so this at this point the wash motor, should be on at this point in the test cycle. We are getting the 120 volts out of the control board being sent down to the motor. So at this point, your control board's working, you're sending voltage out. At this point you would either have a bad motor, or you could have a loose connection down at the motor, or a broken wire along the line there. So we'll go ahead and get this back together. I'm going to shut the power off at this point. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to drain this water out. I'm just going to press and hold the cancel button here. That'll cancel the test cycle and drain everything. So typically you could also, do a ohm reading. You could unplug your 2 wires here to isolate your motor and test from those 2 wires with it unplugged down through your motor. And that would tell you if, if you have an open circuit there, it tells you A, your motor's bad, or B, you have a broken wire. And if you had resistance there, proper resistance of this motor, it would tell you the motor is good. I can tell you from experience and working on a few of these that you can actually get resistance from this and it still be bad. So that's why I like to do the voltage test there to make sure we're supplying power. Because if we're supplying power and wire's not broken and the connection is tight, then we know we have a bad motor. Alright, so that water's drained out. Go ahead and turn that off. And we're going to shut the power off to the dishwasher now. I'll just mount this back in place. So in this case, the wiring's all good. The connection is good at the motor. We've already verified that. So we do have a bad motor pump here, a wash motor sump assembly is what we're going to be doing to repair this. This is a pretty common issue across the board with the Whirlpool family of appliances, Whirlpool, KitchenAid, Amana, and there's other ones as well. To do the motor pump assembly, you don't have to take off the door, but since we already have it off, it's going to give us a little more room here to work with at the bottom. So we'll just leave it off at this point, but I've done them before without removing the door. We will have to get our control board cover pieces back on, so we'll have to take that back off, but we can do that later. So, got the power off to the unit. First thing we got to do to replace the motor sump is we're going to get inside here and remove our lower spray arm. There's just a nut on the bottom. You're just going to turn it counterclockwise and it'll lift straight up and off. Alright, next we're going to need to remove the power scrub wash component here, and then our water tube that goes into the sump assembly here as well. So you could remove your filter and grate at this point, or you can leave it in until you take it out. I'll go ahead and remove it. To remove it, just turn it to the left, about a quarter turn. It'll lift straight up and off, and then this will just lift up and out. Alright, so now we're going to get back to the power scrub. This attaches to the water tower here. We're just going to release that. Okay, so there's just some tabs in the back here that hold it onto that tower. And then this just plugs down into the port of the sump. We'll move that out of the way. Next, you have this one for the tower going up to the upper spray arm. To get this out of there, we're going to slide the upper rack forward. You could remove it completely to give yourself a little more room. And then there's a metal clip on the back wall that holds this in place. I'm just going to depress the tab on the right side and swing that over. You can see the tab there. And then you can also, up at the top, there's going to be another tab for that third level spray arm up there. You could get up there and just remove this whole tower altogether, but for our purpose here, I'm just going to swing it out of the way. It's going to be a little tight, but without breaking it, I'm just going to pull that out of the bottom there and leave this off to the side there. Next, we're going to have to get underneath the dishwasher. All right, so the sump needs to be released from underneath, and you'll have to take off the drain pump as well. So to get underneath the dishwasher here, we have our bottom toe kick or bottom panel. It's got these two screws here, or tabs actually, to release, just using a flat blade. Twist it counterclockwise, half of a turn or 90 degrees, and those will unlock and pull out. And then we're going to pull this off. Alright, so the sump assembly, we're going to have a few things to remove. We've got to take our drain pump off, the wire harness for the drain pump and the drain pump, the drain hose, and then there's 3 tabs, one of which is right here that we have to release to be able to bring the sump up through the inside of the dishwasher. And these tabs are just going to push over to the left like that. There's one in the front here, and then there's going to be 2 more in the back on either side to release. So first thing we'll do is take off our hose and drain pump. There's going to be some water left in the unit. You'll need a towel to collect any residual water. I'm using a pair of hose clamp pliers here. Makes things easier for these type of clamps, but you could also use a pair of pliers or needle nose, channel locks. Alright, now we can pull this hose off. We're going to get the water here. Next, we got the drain pump. First, I'm going to leave the wire harness here. There's just a tab to press up on, and pull out the harness. The wires are in a restraint here on the back side of the drain pump. I'm just going to maneuver those out of there. Pull the harness out. And then to release our drain pump now, there's going to be a tab on the back side here at the top. You can't see it, but it's back here where my finger is. You push in on the tab, and then you rotate the drain pump counterclockwise. And now your drain pump will come off, have some more water. Set that off to the side. So now I'm just going to take these wires that are in this clip here on the sump. I'm just going to release them. Alright, now I'm going to release the two other tabs, just like the one in the front here that we did. We're just going to swivel those. At this point, we can release our motor sump assembly and pull it up through the tub. I'm just going to put a little pressure on it on the bottom to release it. Most of them are not going to come off that easily. You want to be careful when you're pushing up on them and they're not coming. Once they give, a lot of times they'll pop up through there and you're going to cut your hand on the metal underneath there. So now that that's released, we can come back up into the inside of the dishwasher. Alright, there's just like a little cutout here in the front. I'm trying to get the port for the drain hose here up through. Pretty tight. Alright. So now we can go ahead and release our other wiring harnesses. Alright, this is our diverter. We'll release these two. You want to take note which color goes where. So the blue's on our outside and our red's on the inside, because those will plug into one another. They're interchangeable. And then over here we have our turbidity sensor. We can just remove this with the wire still attached. Just going to turn that counterclockwise. Alright, in the back, let's have these wires that go into the clip here. And then here's our motor. This is our failed component. We're going to press in on the tab and release that. And now we can remove the old motor sump assembly. All right, so we got our new motor sump assembly here next to our old one. The only thing we have to transfer over is this concrete counterweight. It's 2 5/16. All right, now we're ready to reinstall the new one. All right, we take our new assembly, get back into the inside of the dishwasher here. All right, first we'll start with our motor connector. I'm gonna route it back through this tab here and plug it back in. Next, we have the turbidity sensor, or the OWI sensor. And if there's any crud on this, dirt, debris, you want to remove it, clean up the O-ring here so it doesn't leak on you, makes a good seal. Alright, so push that in, twist that counterclockwise, and that'll snap and lock into place. This little tab here at the top of this will line up with this tab on the motor sump. Now we'll reinstall the wires for our diverter. Red was on the inside or the bottom here. Blue on the outside. Alright. Before we get it back into place here, we want to just clean up the area here that the seal of the sump assembly is going to fit into. We don't want any debris or anything in here that would cause a leak. Alright, so here's our seal that's going to go back into the tub here. Little tip here, if you use little rinse aid or liquid dish detergent, something like that, it'll allow it to slide into place easier for you. But that can also fight against you, because once you get it down there, before you can get back to the bottom and lock the tabs, it can spring back up on you. So you can fight with these. It's good to have two people for this, one to push it down and hold it in place, while somebody's underneath twisting those tabs to lock it back into place. So I'm going to get the motor to go down into here first. And then in the front here, you're going to have kind of a cutout here to get this port back down through. And then to get it to the right position, this tab, there's another cutout smaller just to the left right here that we're going to be getting this into, so everything lines up to where it should be. Alright, so that's lined up where it should be, and then we want to push down and press our seal down into place all the way around. Alright, you want it to be even all the way around. And once that's down all the way, you can take your tabs and lock them back into place underneath. Like this is where, by the time you push this down and get underneath there, it could spring back up on you. Which makes it hard to get those tabs locked in. So you almost have to keep pressure on this while you lock those tabs in. So at this point, we'll go underneath and lock the tabs back into place. Another tip would be to lock your back tabs or rear tabs in first to make things easier. So I'm going to just take this left tab, and it goes underneath the tub so that that sump stays locked down to prevent a water leak. So the left one went good. We'll get to the right one in the back here. Okay, right one was easy. Now we just got our front one that's left. And that went right into place. So like I said, a lot of times it's not going to go that easy. You need a second person to push down on that. So now I'm just going to route these wires for the diverter. There's two tabs underneath the diverter here that these wires sit in. Get those back in there. Alright. And then over here, we have our wires that go back into this tab. And then I'll pull this tab over and lock it back into place there. Alright, now we can reinstall our drain pump. So here's the tab when you release it to push in on. That releases it. So we're going to line it back up about the same spot it came off at. you're going to have these tabs that are actually locking on to these here, and as you turn it, it tightens it and pushes it in, and then the tab locks it in place. So we got it here, and then we're going to twist it clockwise until it locks into place there. Make sure it's nice and tight, that all three tabs aligned properly. Then we just have our wire connector here for it. We'll plug back in. And then these wires went underneath this tab on the side of the drain pump. Alright, let's see. Now we're just going to reinstall our hose. Make sure your hose is pushed down all the way and get your clamp back into place. Alright, now we'll go back up top or back inside the dishwasher and reassemble our spray arm. First we can reinstall our grate. It's just going to go under the two tabs there. Alright, next we can reinstall our filter. Just going to drop that down, rotate it until it goes all the way down in place there, and then turn it quarter turn to the right, lock it in place, pull up on it, make sure it's locked in. Next we'll reinstall our upper water tower here. Line this up at the bottom here and then swing this back into position. Make sure this gets locked into the tabs, and then you got the clip on the back wall that our tabs will lock into there. Next we have the Pro Scrub. We're going to put this in first into the port here. That just pushes down in there, and then this just locks back onto the tower there like that. And last, we have our spray arm. We're just going to line these up here and lock it into the right there. Alright, next we can reinstall our front panel so we can test this unit out. First, I'm going to take this control board back off so we can reinstall our covers here. I'm just going to line these tabs up with the holes, and then it swings up and locks into these 4 tabs. And then this cover just comes over here and presses in, locks into place there. Reinstall that. Now we can reinstall our front panel, user interface. We're going to line up these tabs here of the front panel with these hooks on the frame here. We'll slide those under and drop it down. And then we got our connector here to plug back into the control board. Alright, now we can open this up and bring it all down together here. I'm actually going to lift this up and line it all up here and then bring it down. We can reinstall all of our screws. And again, the short ones go on the side. Your longer screws are across the top.
Make sure you set your clutch low, or you will break the plastic.
Alright, next we're going to turn the power back on and run the unit through a test cycle. We still have the bottom toe kick panel off, so we can check for any water leaks. Alright, we'll go into diagnostics one more time here. And we'll step through our error code mode. Alright, and we'll let this run through here. It's filling up. We'll make sure the motor works now, that our repair was successful, and check for any water leaks. Alright, the unit's been running now for a few minutes. We're going to let it run for a few more and just double check any water leaks. You want to check all your connections. You want to let the drain pump run, so you can check for any water leaks out of there, out of the hose, and where the new seal, sump and motor, everything goes together. Just checking everything for water leaks here. Everything's good. we'll go ahead and reinstall our toe panel now. All right, we're gonna get our toe panel into position here. We're just gonna take the tab and push it in. And rotate to the right. If you need a screwdriver to rotate it, you can use a flat blade. All right, so we can definitely hear our wash motor running and rotating the spray arms inside of there. So, new wash motor, fix this unit. We've checked for water leaks, everything's working properly. This is a common repair, common failure. You'll get the complaint, not washing dishes. The unit will still run through the cycle, complete cycles. You'll just get fill and drain and long periods in between, nothing running where the wash motor should be running. You won't get any stored error codes, and that's gonna complete your repair.